Ooh, yeah, yeah. They say it's all right. They say it's all right. Say it's all right. Have a good time. 'Cause it's all right. Whoa, it's all right. Now we gonna move it slow.
Hello and welcome to the latest installment of Chor Leoni Inside. My name is Erick Light. I am the artistic director of Chor Leoni Men's Choir, based in Vancouver, British Columbia. Enjoying a lovely springtime here. The flowers are out, the sun has been out, and all things considered, life's looking all right. It's good to have you here, and it's really excited that we're going to be able to share some music that probably many of you have never heard before. Even diehard Chor Leoni fans have not heard. So it should be a lot of fun. I want to, before we get into everything, thank our sponsors. Blue Shore Financial is our series sponsor. We want to thank Blue Shore for all of the support that they give us throughout the years and for this show, as well as our episode sponsor, Greg Martin and Joseph Anthony, have sponsored this particular episode. We thank you. I can't think of two more lovely human beings to have graced us with their sponsorship, and I'm glad you guys could Wonder Twin powers activate and create create this show for us today. We are going to focus on Chor Leoni's commissioning endeavors, and mainly one of the things that we do every single year, which is our C4 choral competition. It's our Canadian choral competition. And this is a yearly event where we do a call for scores. We used to do a call for scores, and now we do a call for work samples from composers. We choose three composers that whose works we think would be good for Chor Leoni. I choose those three, and then we commission a work from those folks, and then the choir works on the pieces. We fly the composers out. We get to work with them for a week, and then premiere the pieces at a live concert in downtown Vancouver. We've usually used the annex downtown here by the Orpheum, and it's been a really wonderful time. Very engaging. The audience asks a lot of questions of the composers, and everybody gets to hear the piece twice with the scores in front of them, which I think has been a really remarkable experience. So everything that you're going to hear tonight from Chor Leoni comes from out of that project. And the first piece I want to share with you is a work by the Canadian composer Alan Bevans, and he wrote a setting of Full Fathom 5, which is a very famous text that comes from Shakespeare's The Tempest. This piece really brings out, in the piano part especially, what Alan has done here is really brings out the depth and gravity and weight of the sea. You feel these layers and layers of water and depths coming out of what the piano part's doing. And the vocal lines are quite extraordinary. Almost all of them begin at very quiet dynamics and swell to very, very large ones over incredibly long phrases. This was a performance done in a relatively dry acoustic in the Orpheum Annex. So Chor Leoni being able to make these lines swell and to shape all the way through. I'm really, really proud of their performance here, and I think it's actually quite a emotional workout as well as a vocal workout. So without further ado, this is Full Fathom 5 by Alan Bevans. Full Fathom 5 by Alan Bevan and was one of the co-winners of our C4 competition a few years back, and just love that work. That text also talks about the transformation of after dying, and that nothing really goes away, but is just changed. And that piece, I think, does it so beautifully. I want to bring in our wonderful guest this evening, this day, Marie-Claire Saindon, who was a winner for one of our C4 competitions. Oh, Marie-Claire, where are you? Hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing great. How are you doing, Eric?
Oh, it's just nice to see people, and you're nice to see. It's just great.
Oh.
I want to. We talked at length for our Further Inside segment, which will be out on Thursday, and I really encourage people to watch and listen to that, because not only are we going to share a few more pieces of Marie-Claire's work, but get to know a lot more about her perspectives on things. But could you just give us just a really quick overview on your path to becoming a composer, your background, your musical background?
Started with violin as a kid, went through high school in an orchestra setting, so didn't do a lot of choir music, studied to be a composer at McGill, and then at Université de Montréal did a master's in film composition, tried to be a film composer, realized that I found more of a community in a choir that I joined in Montreal, which is Concerto della Donna with Ewan Edwards, and then that choir became Iglesia, which is the choir for whom I am now composing residence.
That was very succinct. That was
Otherwise, it's long.
Right. Yeah. No, that's really great, and we get to go into much greater detail in the Further Inside, which is fabulous. I note there's a couple tracks of your musical life. One is classical violin. I know that you also fiddle. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes. And you sing. And you have a film scoring background. How do those different vectors come together into your compositional life right now?
Well, the fiddling definitely comes into life with the just traditional melodies that are really influencing how I write, especially like with modes and rhythmic stuff and things like this. The filmic side of it always makes me think of what is the scene that I'm trying to create and what is the mood.
Do you think about that in terms of like what the scene is like? Because you mentioned that in the Further Inside, that is that the choir? Is that the occasion that the choir is going to sing? What are you thinking about when you say what the scene is that you're composing for?
Depends on the commission. So some commissions are a little more visual. I had a commission where we had dancers and a storyteller and a choir, so I really wanted to imagine visually how that would look like with the music. Most of the time, I need to imagine the scene of what the text is saying, and then I try to create a mood for that.
Right. Well, it's fantastic, and I think we'll get a definite sense of some of the vectors of your compositional work. I want to start and show off some of your composing. With your Turlut. Could you set us up with who's singing this piece, your relationship with them, and tell us a little bit about this work?
Yeah, so I never thought I'd write a straight-on traditional piece ever, but I had the two co-conductors of Chœur Iglesia, so Virginie Pacheco and Emilia McMahon. The first year that I became their composer in residence, their first commission was, can you write a mouth reel? An Acadian mouth reel, just something light, three voice, three parts, and have fun doing it like this. And I thought, I've never, okay, I can try that. I can play it, I can improvise stuff, so I could probably do it. And it ended up being a lot of fun, and the choir really loved performing it too, and we keep performing it all the time. I'm surprised people aren't sick of it yet. But yeah, so there's a lot of traditional French Canadian music out there. As a French speaking composer, I like to put things that are not traditional out there too, to put a little more variety. But this one was just so much fun to write.
And for those that don't know what a mouth reel is, can you just give us a little bit of background?
Yeah. So for those of you who are familiar with jazz, so you know how some jazz singers, Ella Fitzgerald comes to mind when she's just improvising with a certain set of syllables and vocal idioms without words, so it's textless, and you're basically just singing the melody that an instrument would play. So in this case, it would be the traditional folk instruments, so fiddle or tin whistle and things like that. And with the French Canadian style and also other Celtic styles, you get foot stomping to imitate the big round Irish bowron thing, which is the drum. And yeah, so that's basically all it is. It's a party tune for when the fiddlers are tired and they need a break, and then the singers start singing instead.
Fantastic. Well, this is Marie-Claire's Turlut from Acadia by way of Montreal, if I'm understanding the the translation of the work. And tell us again who's performing this work.
So this is Chor Leoni, and this is the choir I perform in currently, and I'm also their composer in residence, and basically is a group with whom I've learned a lot and absolutely love working with them. So based in Montreal.
Fantastic. Well, here's Turlut. Oh, it's just delightful. Thank you for that. It's just great. And it makes me a little bit sad because right in the pre-COVID times, you and I were working on the creations of the male choir version of this, and I was just about ready to start rehearsals on it with Chor Leoni. So someday, Marie-Claire.
Oh, dear goodness sake, yeah.
Oh, it's just fantastic. We got to know you through our C4 competition, and that's kind of the focus of this episode. I've kind of explained to the audience, what this activity is, this project is that we do every year. Tell us a little bit about your perspective on getting to work with Chor Leoni and the creation of Marie-Claire and seeing it all the way through to the premiere through the process of a competition, which is a little strange.
So this was the first competition I won in 2018, and you guys really It blew me. It really, you blew it out of the water. Like, as far as expectations, it was so much fun. So much fun.
It
So
was. I wish we would
basically,
have had even
yeah.
a few more days to just hang out after the show because we were having a good time. Yes, yeah.
So for me as a perspective, I wrote the piece fairly fast, and then hearing back from you guys saying, "Hey, you're one of the finalists. We are now paying you the trip to come and fly to Vancouver, and then we're housing you, and then you're gonna hang out with us, and we're going to rehearse the piece. We're gonna do as much as we can as far as polish." Like, it was just amazing to just. It was intense. It was only a few days, but I really appreciated being part of. Well, I appreciate you guys were part of the process towards the end, right before we got to the performance, so that little details could be fleshed out and polished. It was fantastic. And the concert itself was just so cool. The format, we can talk about that in a few minutes.
Yeah, well, I mean, and the format is kind of interesting because we sing the piece and then we basically do this, just talk with some questions from the audience. How is that like? Because I think that's especially hearing a piece that you've just written in the premiere for the first time, that's a bit of a vulnerable spot to be in. And then all of a sudden you're getting barraged with questions from the audience. Did you find that to be an okay situation, or how did that feel?
That was fine. I mean, first off, you're very engaging, so that helps. And as far as the questions went, I mean, we had just worked in depth on the piece with the choir a couple of times before, so I was sitting there. I had my score. I had to analyze my own score because sometimes I don't know what I do, and if I want to be able to explain what's happening, I have to, look at it from a different. Yeah. Oh yeah. So it was. I mean, if there was a time to ask me questions as to why I did something in a piece and how I did it, that was the perfect time to do it. So yeah, vulnerable, but at the same time, it was such a warm and safe, comfortable, creative, bubbly space that, yeah, no, it wasn't scary at all.
Oh, and I want to also encourage folks in the comments for YouTube or Facebook. Our producer Phil Jack is monitoring all that. So if you have any questions for Marie-Claire for later, let us know and put them in there, and we'll do this. Tell us a little bit about this piece, Mer Calme.
So Mer Calme is a poem by Joseph Autran. And I did not know of him before, and it's one of those nice romantic poems that there's just three stanzas, very simple. It's about the sea and how it's calm and beautiful, and there is no ripple on it, and it's just, I long to be calm like this sea, because I have a raging and mad heart and I don't know what to do with it. So it's this really calm, beautiful thing that kind of finishes in because
the emotional bucket sort of drops out at the end. Yeah. As when you realize, no, now it's not what you think.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I was going to write a piece that was going to be just beautiful and reflexive. I started writing it really fast. I picked the poem and went, okay, start, first notes. And then after the first stanza, I looked at it and went, wait a second. Nope, this is a very, very emotive, angry end. Yeah. Just change course.
And I have to say, and I want people to pay a special attention to it, I think the ending of this piece is just exquisite. And it's a great piece, but the ending it really puts it over the top for me as far as the journey that it takes. Well, let's let people hear it. This is from our C4 competition. Actually, I take that back. This was a winner of our C4 competition a number of years ago, but this was from our Chor Leoni 25 concert from a few years back. This is Mer Calme. Come. Marie-Claire Saindon's work for Chor Leoni, winner of their C4 competition. That is just such a good sing, that piece.
It's so nice to hear it being performed in a larger space like that.
Yeah, it was the first time you've actually heard this performance. I've forgotten. I hadn't seen it, and I was like, oh, I'll surprise you. Get to hear it live. Yeah, it worked the trick in that space. But it's not often that you get getting some of those beautiful chords that we can ring in our voices, but as well as having a really strong melodic presence and again, I think a storytelling aspect to the piece. Really extraordinary.
Thank you.
That was your first. Was that one of your first pieces, or your very first piece writing for male choir?
Yes, that was my first piece writing for male choir.
What are the challenges, or what were the surprises out of that that you felt?
You guys have a wider range than I thought you did.
Yeah,
it's great.
Both up and down.
Yeah, well, ups especially.
Yeah, Chor Leoni's got ups. Yeah, whatever you've heard, we got ups. Yeah, it's it is true. But it's as a first time out, you definitely approached it as a singer, and it was a very gratifying sing. I think I can speak for the choir there. I want to bring in our director and producer Phil Jack into this scene and see if he has anything to. Well, hi Phil, how are you?
Hello, hi Eric. Hello, Marie-Claire.
Hi.
There's one. There's one
little
interesting piece of trivia. If you get a chance to go back and watch that video again, there's a gigantic bouquet of flowers on the stage, and that was a gift from our friends at Electra Women's Choir. And
yes, I was going to mention that actually, and it's definitely a visually prominent, and it was a beautiful bouquet that we got for our 25th anniversary. So we thank our sisters at Electra for honoring their little brothers. Any other comments or questions out there from the folks?
I do have one question. Marie-Claire, you've mentioned that you have, for example, a big stack of texts that you're just waiting for a chance to use. One thing I'm wondering is, are there maybe styles or themes that you're just like dying for a chance to get it to have a chance to compose or something like that?
I'm very poetry illiterate, so I don't know if I'd be able to say a style so I'd go more with themes in this case. I need something visual to hang on to. If it's something that has less visuals, it needs to have a really strong message. It needs to be very emotional for me to hang on to something in there. Otherwise, I don't mind in what it can be in French. It can be. I'm looking for a lot of French poetry, to be honest. I've been commissioning a lot of poetry from my colleagues in a lot in Ontario, actually, francophones, Franco-Ontariens. Anything that's a little quirky, anything that has a lot of heart, may it be denouncing something that is unfair, or may it be something that is wonderful and worth celebrating, really.
So is there a theme or a topic or something that like you're just waiting for somebody to ask or to have the right fit? Is there something in your secret heart here that needs to get out?
Nope. I discover. Otherwise I would have written it already.
Ah.
I like the process of discovering and working with somebody else. If somebody comes with an idea of a theme of a concert or comes with a text, then I can bounce off of that and go, ooh, I haven't thought of that. I didn't think I could do something with that. Let me try it. Which I did recently with a text that was about fake news, and oh my God, it was out there for me, and it was great to do.
For sure. Do you find yourself drawn to, I think, I'll say this, especially conducting a men's choir, if you look at the history of what has been written for men's choir, especially maybe up until the last 30 years, the topics were very similar. There's a let's just say there's a lot of drinking and hunting songs for male choir, especially in the Romantic era. But do you think in terms of the text and what you're writing for the group, that may be a women's choir, men's choir, mixed choir, but each choir themselves has their own idiosyncrasies and quirks. How do you balance that into how you're writing?
I tend to generally ask what are the idiosyncrasies of the choir itself, the group itself for whom I write. I always go straight for that. If they've got a really particular thing about the group, may it be a different voicing that is not very well known, what I will do after is make a more general, revoice it to be more accessible. So I did something recently that was SSAB, or SSATB, which is less popular than SATB, so I revoiced it for SATB after. Things like that. So that's for the music. As far as the text goes, it's completely entirely in the hands of the group that commissions me. So what they want, what they're looking for, and if it resonates with me, I will go for it. It's very rare that I refuse a commission.
You heard it here.
But I do refuse if I feel like it's not part of my voice, and I have before.
Yeah. It is about finding those fits for sure. Well, I'm excited that I know that your music is something that we're going to continue to champion and to work with you and to sing both your praises and your notes. It's very rare when you find a composer that can walk in as many, frankly, as many worlds as I think that you can. And I'm just really excited that we can be a part of sharing your voice with folks.
Well, thank you for letting me use your voice. It's fantastic. Without choirs, choral composers wouldn't have their instruments. So likewise here, it's.
Oh, tell me about it. I'm no pianist. My instrument is human beings, and I can't play it currently. It's not a great feeling. So no, I completely understand. Well, I want to thank you for being with us, Marie-Claire. It's just again, it's a real honor. And before you do, I want to introduce the last piece for the show today. This is Elizabeth Knudsen's co-winning work for one of our C4 competitions, and it's on a poem by Paul Laurence Dunbar, African American poet, one of the first ones to gain a real notoriety in the States, and wrote just wonderful, extraordinary poems. And she set this one, which is regarding sleep. It's called "As Sleep Comes Down." And what I was drawn to initially when the piece was submitted was she really created. There's a lot of times when you have piano and choir, which this is scored for, that there's certain things that a piano does and there's certain things that the choir does. And this piece didn't really follow any of those rules. The piano plays this kind of almost obbligato, very just melodic line, not necessarily supportive of the choir in the ways that piano's often written for choirs. And I also the form of the piece is very almost mantra-like and hypnotic, and it's talking about sleep, and I find it to be just an incredibly soothing and expansive work. It's sort of one you can just sort of go inside of, and you want to live inside of it, versus it sort of presenting itself to you. So this is Elizabeth Knudsen's "As Sleep Comes Down," C4. Elizabeth Knudsen, As Sleep Comes Down, Paul Laurence Dunbar, the poet. I want to thank from the bottom of my heart James and Leslie Carter. They have been financial sponsors for the C4 program since its inception. And not only were they responsible for helping create all of these pieces, but they also were responsible for creating all these beautiful connections that we're creating with these wonderful composers. Marie-Claire Saindon, first among them. So I thank you, Leslie and James. James, we're just sending you all our love, especially right now. I also want to thank Blue Shore Financial for their support of this series, as well as Greg Martin and Joseph Anthony for the sponsorship of this episode. We have a heck of a month coming up in June as we close out our first season of this show. And next week, Contus will be joining us. The following week, Lorelei will be with us. The following week, Jason will be with us from the Aeolians, as well as we're closing out the season with singers from Voces 8. So it's going to be a kind of a star-studded cast as we say goodbye to our first season of doing this show. It has been a real pleasure to offer this music to you. I hope you stay well, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see you next time.
Boom, 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 boom. Ooh, yeah, yeah. They say it's all right. They say it's all right. Say it's all right. Have a good time. 'Cause it's all right. Whoa, it's all right. Now we gonna move it slow. Up in the lights low. When you move it slow, it feels like